Saying a special good morning to our listeners, good morning to our viewers. Welcome to The Point. It's Thursday. It's the 26th day of March, 2026. Good morning to one and all, especially those of you who are listening via social media platforms, whether it's the Facebook page, YouTube channels. Good morning to you and welcome. I'm your host, GT, with you this morning here on today's edition of To The Point. You know, usually on Thursday, we usually host various departments within the RGPF. We don't have anyone representing the RGPF this morning on the program, but we do have a representative from, of course, Grenlec on the program this morning. We'll be here for a brief period of time. And, of course, we have Mr. Gregory Cato with us this morning from Grenlec. Good morning to you, sir. Welcome. How you doing?
Good morning to the general listening public. As my colleague would have told you, my name is Gregory Cato. I'm basically attached to the Planning and Engineering Department. I'm the Senior Control Operator. As we get into the kite season, Easter is that festive time. I mean, there is spirituality with it, but persons really go out to enjoy themselves. And of course, kite flying is part of the whole thing. What we trying to encourage is that persons take into consideration the safety aspects of things. Kite flying, when it's done in places where it ought not to be done, can result in outages. And of course, we're dealing with electricity. So you can have injuries as well as it can lead to that of fatalities, which we don't want. So we're trying to encourage persons to fly the kites in the designated areas. I would want to give us a kind of breakdown as to how kite flying affects us. We have a comparison with that of from 2022. The statistics we have showed that 44 incidents would have occurred in 2022, affecting a total of 23,406 customers. That would have resulted in an customer outages of a total of 7,597 customer hours, which is quite a bit. That of 2023, we would have had a total of 51 incidents affecting 4,877 customers with a total of 10,028 customer hours, and that's downtime, outages. We would have saw in 2024 37 incidents affecting 7,741 customers with a total of 8,339 customer hours. 2025, 44 incidents affecting 4,494 customers with a total of 9,604 customer hours downtime.
So let me chime in on you there for a minute. Now, when these incidents of kite flying and it causes the outage, how concerning is that for Grenlec?
So, first of all, Grenlec is a service provider, and we basically would want to have power on at all times. So once you have those sort of interruptions, you basically would have persons being out of power. And as the statistics show, in fact, the year to date we have is a total of 16 incidents affecting 1,777 customers.
And that you're talking for 2026?
That is for 2026. Thus far, with a downtime of 1,780 customer hours. That is too much. Now, customer annoyance, I mean, we all know we need the power for various reasons.
Yes.
So, in terms of persons being affected is the entire nation that is being affected as it relates to same. Another thing too is that we need to reiterate the safety aspect of things, because when you have persons having their kites entangled in the lines, you have the tendency of persons wanting to go and remove same. And in so doing, they're putting themselves in harm's way. Yes. So, yes, we're providing a service that we want persons to be online with their electricities at all time. But at the same time, we have to ensure that persons' safety is paramount.
Yeah, great. Now, the 2026 season, we know Easter is coming up. And of course, you said thus far for the year, there's already 17 cases thus far for the year. Now, from a Grenlec perspective, what would Grenlec like to, speak to the public of, especially individuals who are flying kite? Because it varies in age range. Because we know the elderly, young persons doing it, folks of middle age are doing it, even the elderly persons who still like that option of flying. What would Grenlec like to say? Of course, the folks who are out there flying kites and are not adhering to these safety rules in particular.
So you would have put it nicely, because that's factual. Yeah. You have a wide range of persons that engage in the kite flying. So first of all, we targeting that of the family. Yeah. And we trying to have persons champion what we're saying and what ought to be done. So in the case where we go out as a family to fly, we would want to go to designated kite flying locations. And basically, you would want to ensure that those locations that you pick are locations where you have very little to no lines. And that's the Grenlec power lines.
Yes.
Once you're there engaging in your kite flying, you want to ensure that you keep a close eyes on the young ones, because once the kites fail, they can actually make their way to the lines.
Yes.
And the young ones may have the tendency of going after the kites. Mm-hmm. And so in doing so, they may attempt to pull the kites from the lines. And we really don't want that to happen. So we encourage persons, once they're there, keep an eyes, so have that parental guidance. And of course, if the kites happen to get on the lines, you want to ensure that you call the 237 and the number sign. That's our emergency hotline, so that we can remove it. Being the professionals, we can do it safely. Also, as you mentioned, there are persons that we consider should be in that position to make the right decisions. So we have teenagers and, well-grown persons. You would find them even attempting to do the kite flying at the side of the road. You want them to refrain from doing that.
Those always have the control that you think you may have.
Of course. And so it's basically you're ensuring your safety is paramount. Another thing too is that you may see kites on the lines. Please call us so that we can remove them safely. From time to time, you would see kites there. So please call us so that we can remove it safely. Another thing too is that of having the community, the churches, the schools advocate same. So it would allow for persons to be sensitized and do the right thing.
All right. Second, we drew for a break. Let's take it. We come back. And of course, I did mention the police was not going to be with us this morning, but they are here. So they're probably going to join in on the conversation with us for a few. So let's take that break and we come back. Of course, we will have the folks from the RGPF joining us. Stay with us, folks. Don't touch your dial. We'll be right back. We'll be right back with you. To the point.
April 2nd, 2026, the official pre-character, all-inclusive, all-white cruise experience is here. Hosted by the Grenada Olympians. It's respectfully yours. Premium entertainment with music by DJ Blackstorm and graphics, food and drink inclusive, all-white dress code experience. It's an Olympian hosted celebration. Ticket outlets, Cotofet.com, Grenadian Optical, Town and Grandance, Hot Boys Food Truck, Wall Street, and Chillaxing Cafe in Grandance and Subi. All proceeds support the next generation of Olympians. So on Thursday, April 2nd, respectfully yours, about the ecstasy, Carifta weekend starts.
Every generation has its moment. A moment when a nation decides to build something greater. For its people, for its future. For Grenada, that moment is now. The government of Grenada invites the entire nation to witness the groundbreaking ceremony for the new General Hospital under Project Polaris. Be there as we break ground on a future where every Grenadian has access to modern, world-class healthcare. Friday, 27th March, at the Project Polaris site, Calaveni, St. George. Arrive at 3:30 p.m. The ceremony begins at 4 p.m. sharp. Bring your pride, bring your hope, and witness the beginning of a new chapter in Grenada's history. Project Polaris, building the future of healthcare, building the future of Grenada.
A trip to Grenada from April 4th to the 6th, 2026. A decision you'll never regret. This isn't just any destination. It's where passion meets performance. Welcome to the 53rd Carifta Games, hosted at the iconic Kirani James Athletic Stadium in St. George's. Under the theme, Passion Drives Performance. The best of the Caribbean's junior athletes will compete in electrifying track and field competition. Organized now and be part of an experience like no other, where talent, passion, and perseverance come alive on the land of 100,000 jab. Feel the passion, celebrate the performance, and create memories that will last a lifetime in pure Grenada, the land of warmth, spirit, and unstoppable energy. Welcome to the 53rd Carifta Games.
Before the digital age, before the world moved at the speed of a click, there was a signal connecting a nation. In 1986, a journey in broadcasting began in Grenada, a journey that would grow into a trusted voice across the country. For 40 years, through radio and television, we've been there for the stories that shaped our nation, the news that mattered, the voices that informed us, the moments that brought us together. Your stories, your voices, your moments. The Grenada Broadcasting Network, 40 years strong. One nation, one network.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. Once again, it's To The Point, Classic Radio, GBN TV. Of course, as mentioned before the break, we have the folks from the RGPF with us this morning. Should I say the Coast Guard Division? Referred to this morning. We do have, is it Constable Walcott and I always mix it up, the Constable and Corporal, and I just mix that up very so bad. Maybe I should let you folks introduce yourselves, of course, on the program this morning. Good morning once again, and welcome.
Good morning. So with me is Constable Charles, and I'm Corporal
Charles
Walker.
and Corporal Walker. Welcome. Well, our conversation already started a wee bit, of course, with Mr. Cato from Grenlec, and he gave a lot of insight in terms of kite flying, the do's and the don'ts, and etc. So we're going to talk a wee bit with the Coast Guard this morning, because our conversation basically, we know the Easter season is approaching. And a lot of youngsters are also in reference to the kite flying. Folks want to go to the beaches and other, of course, waterways that they want to participate in. But safety is always pivotal when you're visiting these places, and you can't say too much. You can't say too much in terms of educating the folks with the do's and don'ts, especially. I want you to share with us this morning in terms of kicking it off in terms of safety tips, especially for individuals who are going to be visiting swimmers, non-swimmers, especially, that general safety tips that they should adhere to when visiting these places. And I was going to kick that off for us this morning.
All right, well, let me just first say, a pleasant good morning to you, Sir GT, and also to the wonderful listeners of Classic FM and GBN, the viewers of GBN TV. So we do have some safety tips,
yes.
General safety tips for beachgoers. So one of those tips, always plan your day, So before leaving home, at least get an idea weather updates, what the sea state is going to be like. It's going to be windy, it's going to be a lot of rain, so you have an idea, hey, it's going to be choppy seas. So, the wave heights can be, that can determine how safe it is at the beach.
Yes.
Right? And especially if you're going to have kids at the beach. Knowing it's the Easter season, it's a family time, we're going to have our kids at the beach, So safety first, and that's what we're looking at. Always designate an adult to keep watch over the kids at all times. Because we know children, you take your eyes off for 2 minutes, and trust me, they get bored and they start doing something else.
Yeah, they will wander off.
And there you go. So all those things have to be taken into consideration. There are people who are very strong swimmers, and there are also people who not such good swimmers, and there are people who cannot swim at all. Yeah. So in those cases, stay close to the shoreline, stay where you can stand. Avoid allowing the water to go past your chest height, because the thing is, if the current pull you outwards, every time you go back, it's getting deeper. It means it's gonna eventually cover you where your foot would not be able to touch the ground. So if you cannot swim, the end results, might turn into an incident, which we wouldn't want. If you're gonna swim, rather than swimming from the shore, go outwards, you swim parallel to the shore. Yeah. So swim alongside. So that again would ensure, safety as well. If again, like I said, the rough seas. If the sea is rough, just don't go in. Don't bother venturing. We could have a good time on the sand. Yeah. We have a thing we say sunbathing. Yeah, we go have a good time on the sand. And alcohol, the consumption of alcohol, and the sea. You have to be very, very mindful of these things, because alcohol impairs your judgment, and sometimes you get in there and it affects your body in a particular way, right? So you probably normally in your normal state you could be a good swimmer, but then under the influence of alcohol or any other narcotic substance,
can impair your judgment a whole lot.
Exactly, yeah. And that can create a very dangerous situation out there. Just to push in that as well, I strongly think that we should also be our brother's keeper. Yeah. So in that, everyone at the beach should actually look out for each other, because anything can happen to you, your kids, and you would like for someone to actually be able to assist you in that time of need, or to help prevent an incident whereas one of your relatives or even you might get yourself entangled with. I know lately we have the tendency to press that record button rather than dialing emergency number or so forth. So just to put it out there, so the Coast Guard emergency line, that's 399. You can dial that, and that's a direct emergency line to the Grenada Coast Guard. The 911 emergency line, you can also dial that, and they can also transfer to Coast Guard if necessary. it is always good to at least try to help.
Yeah.
So you cannot swim, but if someone is, in distress, you could probably look for something that they can float on.
Yeah.
So you can throw it to them. You can shout for help. There might be others who are stronger swimmers, and they might be able to come forward and give assistance, immediate assistance, before professional help arrives. So in that way, we all play a role in keeping our society safe, and including the beach areas and things like that. Because I believe all of us are heroes, and you don't have to be the best swimmer to be the hero. Just by making that phone call or asking for that help, you actually can save a life or prevent an incident. Because sometimes you see someone actually heavily under the influence of alcohol, and you see that they actually want to go into the rough sea, and you ask for assistance. Don't allow that person to get in. That will create a dangerous situation.
Is it also advisable? Sometimes folks may see someone who is, of course, in danger in the water, maybe in the process of not able to help themselves. Is it advisable to always go out and offer that assistance? Especially if you know for yourself you may not be that perfect of a swimmer. Would you advise someone to do that or not?
Right. So this is where, just to touch back on what I was saying, so you may not be a good swimmer.
Yeah.
But I would not advise you to actually get into the water and try to actually swim to assist that person like that. You can find something that the person can float on.
Yes.
You can throw that to them so that at least they have something to hold on to. You can ask for help. There might be other persons. If there are more than one person that strong swimmers, it's a greater chance of all them coming together. They'll be able to save that person rather than just one person attempting to do that maneuver. If probably they're not properly trained in that field, right? Also dialing the emergency numbers, because again, you're actually seeking for professional help, because what can happen, you probably have the police officers dispatch, Coast Guard dispatch, also ambulance services dispatch, because in the event that the person might obviously taking water, or the case may be. So these are the things that are more advisable to do, that rather than you getting into the water to attempt to, seek help. So don't go in alone, All
right. How important is also timely response in a situation of that? Especially, of course, the time it takes someone to get to the authorities to offer assistance. How important is for one to offer those assistance? Especially when someone is in the instance of unable to help themselves in open water. Timely response.
So you're looking at timely response as regards to Coast Guard, or just in general?
In general, timely response. I may notice someone out in the water who's being incapacitated for some reason.
Right.
How timely should I respond? And then also in terms of also calling the authorities to assist me also.
So immediately. So once you notice someone is in distress, you immediately signal for assistance.
Yeah.
Right? Because the thing is, it doesn't take that long between then and the person actually drowning, really, to be based on how the ability to keep themselves above the water. Yeah. Right? So as soon as you recognize something is wrong, you ask for assistance. And again, if you can get the assistance right there on the beach immediately, because there are lifeguards on some of the beaches, so you can seek for that assistance. And again, but even if you get those assistance, still call the emergency lines, because these things, remember, as I said, health professionals can be dispatched, police officers can be dispatched, the Coast Guard can be dispatched. So you're looking at, even you get immediate assistance, then professional help is also coming on the way to give further assistance, right? So to help with that situation.
Okay. We're due for a break. Let's take it. When we come back, we continue the conversation. Stay with us, folks. To the Point, Classic Radio GBN TV. We'll be right back. Don't touch it out.
Your life is yours. Your future's in your hands. Your body is yours. That's why you need a plan. You gotta plan your family, avoid HIV, get the education from the Grenada Planned Parenthood Association.
We offer
STI screening, gender-based violence counseling, prenatal and postnatal checks, injectables, condoms, pap smears, and other sexual reproductive services. Open Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. The Pointy Street, St. George's. Whether male or female, it doesn't matter. We're here to make your life better.
Grenada Planned Parenthood Association.
For appointments, call 440-3341.
Grenada, we are back. Our senior women's national team returns to the pitch for a massive CONCACAF W qualifier, and they need your power behind them. Tuesday, April 14th, Karani James Athletics Stadium, Grenada versus Cayman Islands. Kickoff 5 p.m. This is national pride. This is passion. This is the road to glory. Tickets, adults just at $25, children $10, and kids under 12 get in free. Get your tickets now at gotofet.com or at these outlets: Chucky's Bar, Grenadian Optical, St. George's, and Spiceland Mall. GFA office. Bring your flags, bring your voice, and come support our Grenada women's national team as they battle for victory. Follow the journey on social media at Grenada Football Association. Grenada versus Cayman Islands, April 14th, 5 p.m. Be there and stand with Team Grenada.
Every generation has its moment. A moment when a nation decides to build something greater. For its people, for its future. For Grenada, that moment is now. The government of Grenada invites the entire nation to witness the groundbreaking ceremony for the new General Hospital under Project Polaris. Be there as we break ground on a future where every Grenadian has access to modern, world-class healthcare. Friday, 27th March, at the Project Polaris site, Calavini, St. George. Arrive at 3:30 p.m. The ceremony begins at 4 p.m. sharp. Bring your pride, bring your hope, and witness the beginning of a new chapter in Grenada's history. Project Polaris, building the future of healthcare, building the future of Grenada.
When the day's done, there's only one place to be. Jump it up. April 25th and 26th, the Kirani James Athletic Stadium comes alive. It's the Classic Lighting Communal Credit Union Invitational Games, the final showdown. Come witness all clubs battle for glory one last time. Gather your posse, take your stand, and jump up for Bankers Association, Hubbards, DigiCell, Huggins, Grenlec, Nawasa, Prisons, Police, Busmen, and Flow. This is rivalry. This is passion. This is Grenada on fire. April 25th and 26th. Kirani James Athletic Stadium. Don't miss it.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, once again. Let me say good morning to also those of you via social media platforms, whether it's the Facebook page, YouTube channels. Welcome. Thanks for being with us this morning. It's to the point. And our conversation this morning, basically, we shared a lot of information in reference to tips. You know, the Easter is approaching. And, you know, when Easter comes around, as I mentioned before, you know, folks go out to open water spaces and, of course, want to have a good time. But your safety is pivotal around that time. Individuals who want to fly kites, as you heard from Mr. Cato from Grenlec, of course, you flying that kite in a place that is not appropriate could cause the inconvenience of lots of our, of course, citizens of the island. We also want to touch on small craft operators, and that's where, of course, I guess from the Coast Guard is going to speak a lot about that. Small craft operators also get to use their boats a lot, especially when it comes to Easter times. I mean, boat use, you know, the areas folks do their fishing and stuff, but some folks use it for recreational purposes around the Easter time and various. I want you to speak in terms of safety tips and guidelines that they should follow suit, especially around this time of the year.
Okay, as it relates to boating safety tips, I want to encourage persons that to ensure that you check your vessels for any leaks so as to avoid any distress that you can avoid encountering out at sea. Make sure that you have sufficient fuel in your vessel, because oftentimes we have reports coming in that fishermen or boat goers run out of fuel. Yeah. Sufficient life jackets. You want to make sure that persons have sufficient life jackets on board your vessel in case of your vessel being turned over or so. Ensure that you carry day and night flares or flashlight in case you have any sort of a distress. The RSS plane usually would do a flyover in case of we have distressed vessels, so you can be easily located by just simply using your flashlight and your flares. You want to also check your radios, ensure that your radios and GPS are working so that you can give a proper location, so that it would lessen the response time of the Coast Guard. It is also important that you notify someone when you are departing and give them an estimated time in which that you may return. So if you tell your loved ones that you're going out 9 o'clock and you should return at least by midday, and that time haven't come, at least they can inform the Coast Guard that such person have not returned the time that they had estimated that they would be back.
Okay.
Also, you do not want to speed when visibility is restricted, because you know boating incident can happen as a result of that. You want to also ensure that you have a toolkit on board in case you encounter any engine problem or engine failure. You have tools on board that you can also use to fix or diagnose the problem. It is also encouraged that when you're going out at sea, you go out in pairs, so you can help each other.
The importance of having functioning safety equipment on board. How important is that?
Well, it is important to have that, because in case you end up in distress, it is much easier to rely. Like, take for example, if you have a GPS, for example. Now, if you go drifting, and you sometimes people get disoriented, right? So you have a GPS, you can give an exact location as to where you are. Coast Guard can respond and get you on that specific.
Yeah.
That specific
location where you're at.
Yeah.
All right. And you did spoke in relation to having, of course, flares and all of that. Make sure that they are properly and secured properly also, especially when they're going out. All right. Good to hear that. And I certainly hope that listeners are listening to this information this morning, and especially those with these small craft, and make proper use of it. I want to come back to Grenlec for a wee bit, to Mr. Cato. Should I say come back? I should say come back to Grenlec, Mr. Cato. Get you this morning. Another important aspect that, I know the folks at Grenlec sometimes speak about, and I hope you could, of course, give us some information and share that this morning. In terms of accidents, especially individuals running into poles and stuff like that, the importance of that folks should pay attention to, especially individuals who someone may hit a pole, run into it, lines fall on the ground. How should folks deal with situation of that nature?
So, first of all, we would encourage persons during the Easter to watch the alcohol intake. Yeah. Because most of the time, accidents is as a result of intoxication. If you're drinking, please have designated drivers and avoid the alcohol, especially when you're around your loved ones and your family. In terms of the accidents, when you collide with our assets, for instance, that of a pole, it compromising can cause lengthy downtime. We would have already spoken in terms of us being reliable, in terms of us having the power on, because that's the service we basically providing. The safety aspect, yes, because you can compromise the asset and lines can now make their way to the ground, creating a safety hazard for the general public and also yourself. when these incidents happen, it takes time, it takes resources. So it's very expensive for us in terms of replacing those assets and also the man hour. Because most of the time, the incidents would happen like in the wee hours of the morning, during the night. So we want to reiterate to persons, please be mindful, please be careful, drive safely, watch your alcohol intake. And again, too, we have cases where on the poles we have more than one feeders. We have cases where we have transmission lines on those poles. So the number of persons that will be affected in an event is very large. So again, trying to reiterate to persons, please champion the fact that once you socialize in, be mindful as to your actions can have negative effects on others.
All right. Is there a recommended procedure that one should go through, especially in incidents of that nature? You notice a vehicle hitting a pole, but there are lots, as one of the officers mentioned, lots of folks like to come around and look and want to use and take photos and all of these things. What are the do's and don'ts when a situation like that occur?
So, of course, I mean, it's an accident situation. You would want to make sure that it is safe for you to assist whomever it is that would have met up in that incident or that tragedy. As I said, you need to ensure that it is safe for you to do so, because with power lines on the ground, for instance, you can have step potential, you can have touch potential, meaning you can actually injure yourself or it can lead to fatality. I don't really want to say that, but it is what it is. Yeah. So you want to make sure that it is safe. If you're in doubt, then it means you make the call. Yeah. You call 237 and the number sign, inform us as to what the situation or situations are. And we in return would send in the professionals to take it from there. And even if it's a case where lines are not on the ground, but sometimes the collision, if you want or you happen to move the vehicle, it can worsen things, so the pole probably could eventually fall. So you want to ensure that you take all these things into consideration. Oftentimes, people have the tendency of, once they meet in those incidents, they try to remove themselves and their vehicle from the scene, trying not to be culpable. But you need to take safety into consideration. Please, we reiterate and say.
All right. Certainly hope folks are following those guidelines and making sure that you make proper use of it in terms of when situations like that do occur. Folks, we drew for a break, which will be our final break in this segment. When we come back, we continue the conversation. To our listeners and viewers, if you do have a question or two in terms of our conversation this morning, you can feel free to give us a call. We have double options for you to call in: 435-2041, 435-2041, both the WhatsApp and the direct line. We'll be right back after the break. Don't touch it out, folks. Stay with us. It's To The Point.
Before the digital age, before the world moved at the speed of a click, there was a signal connecting a nation. In 1986, a journey in broadcasting began in Grenada, a journey that would grow into a trusted voice across the country. For 40 years, through radio and television, we've been there for the stories that shaped our nation, the news that mattered, the voices that informed us, the moments that brought us together. Your stories, your voices, your moments. The Grenada Broadcasting Network, 40 years strong. One nation, one network.
Thursday, April 2nd, 2026, the official pre-character, all-inclusive, all-white cruise experience is here. Hosted by the Grenada Olympians. It's respectfully yours. Premium entertainment with music by DJ Blackstorm and graphics. Food and drink inclusive. All-white dress code experience. It's an Olympian hosted celebration. Ticket outlets, GoToFed.com. Grenadian Optical, Town and Grandance. Hot Boys Food Truck, Wall Street, and Chillaxing Cafe in Grandance and Souvenir. All proceeds support the next generation of Olympians. So on Thursday, April 2nd, respectfully yours, about the ecstasy, Carifta weekend starts.
In a world where our health defines our future and the Caribbean stands on the front lines of climate change, rising NCDs and global challenges, knowledge becomes our greatest defense. Caribbean Medical TV is your guide on the journey to wellness and insight, featuring our region's own doctors, nurses, climate specialists and medical institutions. From physical well-being to the emotional and mental balance we all deserve. Caribbean Medical TV empowers you because building a healthier future isn't just a regional goal. It's a
Welcome back to our listeners. Welcome back to our viewers once again. It's To The Point for today, Thursday, the 26th day of March, 2026. Welcome back to my guest this morning on the program once again. We spent a lot of time, we spoke about mostly incidents and we shared tips, especially for beachgoers. But there's also that option where folks use rivers and lakes and so forth. Around this time of the year, Easter season, folks say, I'm going to take my family to the river, I'll go by the lake. But although we don't have much folks bathing by the lakes in Grenada, but it's still of a concern that of course, your information you want to share in relation to that, because there may be someone who's thinking that. Share with us some tips that folks, the do's and don'ts, especially when you visit rivers and so forth, because we have had incidents, folks visiting waterfalls and all of these things, and incidents can occur if folks don't practice proper safety when they visit those locations.
All right, so as regards to the lakes, there's clear signage that actually states that no swimming in the lake. But we know what, from time to time, there are folks that might just think, hey, you know what, I can just get in and take a dip.
No, I'm not going to pay attention to the rules.
Yeah, you have to pay attention to the rules. And, so the sign is there. So folks, we're going to have to obey, the signage. The rivers, you have to be careful when you go to the river, because the thing is, it can look really calm now, but rain can be falling very heavily in the mountain areas. Yeah. Now, that's where you can have sort of like a flash, say a flash flood, but just a flash flow of the river itself, right? And that happens in stages, but very quickly. You probably start hearing the little stones that pebbles start knocking against each other. Then you start seeing the discoloration of the water. Now, once you notice things like that, please just exit. Don't even wait. Don't wait for nothing. Just exit the river. Do not even stay too close, like stand by on the edge, because the water flow sometimes exceeds the banks of the river. So you just exit the river in its entirety. The waterfalls, we know that in the past we had incidents at some of the waterfalls, drownings. And most of them would have been related to folks trying to get beneath the where the water is falling directly, and some cases where folks cannot swim very well. Now, the river water or fresh water, it's not as buoyant as the seawater. So you're not going to, if you're not a strong swimmer, you're going to sink quickly, right? Rather, as differs from the sea. So going into that type of body of water, you have to pay more, have more extra precaution, take more extra precaution, because it is way more dangerous as you think it is. It looks harmless because it's inland and things like that, but trust me, it is just as dangerous as the ocean. Okay. Right? So avoid if you cannot swim, don't venture out into the deep, in those basins.
Okay.
Right? Do not try to go beneath the waterfall directly. It creates a strong current, and that can actually keep you there. And when you go into the sea, and when we're younger, the wave turn you over, they say you get a boil. So it's a similar boiling effect. So just to try to avoid that, because we want to have an incident-free season, and we hoping not just this year, but from years to for years to come. So I guess as much if we adhere to some of those tips, the risk would reduce. So this is what we're trying to do, try to mitigate those incidents from actually occurring.
Okay, great. Anything you want to expand again? Of course, Walker did mention a whole lot about the small crafts, and anything you want to expand on that before?
As it relates to fishing vessels and regulations, as it relates to the safety equipments. I was just going to expand on that a little. Every vessel shall at all times carry on board the following items: a bailer capable of removing water from the vessel in case you have any leaks, a handheld or other compass, not less than 5 gallons of fresh drinking water for each on board the vessel, stored in a closed container in case there is any distress also. And you go drifting, at least you have water that you can drink to last you for an extended period of time. Not less than 5 gallons of reserve fuel for any motor on board the vessel. A battery-powered waterproof flashlight. Some of the don'ts that I want to briefly touch on or reiterate on: do not steer any vessel under the influence of alcohol, because we cannot say that enough times, and we always know that this keeps happening. Avoid going to sea in fall weather, because you know what this can do. This can cause accidents also. Do not speed when visibility is restricted. These are some of the things that we find happening, and accidents do occur. Do not exceed the speed limit within a harbor. Vessels should be steered at clutch speed, which is roughly 3 knots.
Okay.
And just to reiterate, in terms of the party vessels, do not overload your vessels. We always have this issue happening. Safety comes first. Do not overload your vessels.
So that's basically covers that. We haven't touched much. I'm not sure if you have any information to share on it, because there are always going to be penalties and consequences for a situation of that nature. You spoke about the party vessels. You spoke about folks who are, especially vessels who are on beaches and so forth, when folks are having a good time. What are that particular? Is it a major offense for individuals doing that?
Right. So as regards to the offences, now the Powercraft Act covers a lot of those offences. So, for example, the party boats, they are registered on the Port Authority, and in their licensing, which is under the Powercraft Act, there are things that they have to follow. Now, you should not overload that vessel, because the vessel has a capacity plate, and it states how the weight or how many persons. And I think even when there is a with port, there is also a number of persons that they can allow on that vessel at one given time.
Okay.
Right? So in that the regulations, there are consequences. There are fines. They can be charged. And also, if they default in paying those fines, there is the penalty of imprisonment. So, and just to also add in, as regards even to not just the party boats, but even to the smaller vessels. Now, a powercraft is classified as any mechanically powered vessel that can travel over 5 knots and above. Okay. All right. So most of all those small boats, if not all of them, fit in that category. All right. So now it must be registered to legally operate in the territorial waters of Grenada, and that is according to law, according to the Powercraft Act. And also, no one under the age of 16 years is legally able to operate that craft. So you must be 16 years and over to operate a Powercraft.
Okay.
All right. So anyone under that age, then offense is being committed, and action can be taken. Also, from the shoreline, a Powercraft should not operate 200 meters from the shoreline. So even from the beach areas, especially from the beach areas, because we have swimmers in the water. We know how it is. Folks, get a little excited, and they come around the beach area and start doing the little stunts and donuts and so forth, and but they come in a little way too close to the shoreline, which poses a danger to swimmers, snorkelers, divers, etc. Right? So that act actually gives the police officers and Port Authority powers to actually charge individuals who are committing those offences, including for dangerous maneuvers with the vessels as well.
Okay, understand. So, all right. Well, we're getting to that stage we're going to I'm going to, of course, ask Mr. Cato from Grenlec any closing comments you want to make before we take a wrap for this morning. Just maybe to reiterate some of the things you said earlier, of course, in terms of the folks to just adhere to all those rules that you mentioned.
Yes, thanks. As we said earlier, safety as we move through the Easter season, please take into consideration the safety aspect of things. We are well aware as to even before Easter and way after Easter, persons still engage in the kite flying. So please do take into consideration when we go out to fly our kites, do it in the designated areas. Let's stay away from the power lines. And of course, as we mentioned, when we have those kites airborne, once they fail, they would go in other areas and sometimes get entangled with the lines, resulting in outages that affects large number of persons. And also, last but not least, let's be mindful as to how we commute. Let's take into consideration making contacts with the assets. Those incidents can also offset in terms of outages, and also please be mindful, it can also infringe on your safety. So have a happy, enjoyable, Christ-like, if you may, Easter.
All right. Was there anything in closing from you both this morning?
Basically, just to go over a little bit. Again, we just want to reiterate that safety is paramount, and we're just urging, especially the adults, to please keep a close eye on the younger ones. Because sometimes a lot of things happen, they just wander off. So please keep an eye on them, and let us be our brother's keeper. And again, as I said, you don't have to be the hero that goes in the water and swim to save the person, but you can be that one to dial that number. Do not forget 399. It's Coast Guard emergency line, or you can dial 911. And with also doing that, don't forget you can also ask for help at that beach. There are lifeguards there. There are even persons who are probably very good swimmers that might be able to assist in any possible incident. Also to the boaters, please operate in a safe manner, adhere to the marine regulations, and hopefully we should have an incident-free Easter season. So in closing, so it's our pleasure on behalf of the Commissioner of Police and Commander of the Grenada Coast Guard to be here today to enlighten you, the general public, on some of the safety tips as we approach this festive season. So we hope that what we said here today, would actually help and folks would take it into consideration. So Have a wonderful Easter and be safe out there. And thank you again. Thank you, GBN. Thank you, Classic FM. Thank you, Mr. GT, sir. And
all right. Very good. I want to thank you folks for popping in this morning and sharing information. I certainly hope our viewing and listening audience would adhere to the information. As we mentioned, the Easter season is coming up. Folks who decide to fly their kites, you do it in the designated areas. Folks who will be using the various waterways, whether the beaches, rivers, or lakes, of course, you follow those safety tips. Gentlemen, I want to thank you once again and best wishes for the rest of the day. All right.
Thanks, and same to you.
Folks, that's where we're going to take a wrap for today's edition of To The Point. I want to thank all who contributed towards today's program. Thank you so much. Have a good one, folks. That's where we say goodbye.